At Sunbelt Media Days, we finally got a chance to sit down with Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill. What was the process all about, and why did the Sunbelt settle on La Tech? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we did get a chance for about 20 minutes or so to sit down with the commissioner of the Sunbelt, Keith Gill. You can see what we talked about, the process of La Tech joining the Sunbelt, why La Tech was other schools considered. Did anybody else contact the Sunbelt? Better bowl tie-ins, how they can do better with NCAA hoop bids, maybe two. He is actually the chairman. He will go on TV and defend the brackets. All right. And I suggested just to have the same rationale for the different teams, as you will get criticized. It doesn't matter who is the 69th team, you will get yelled at. All right. Also, we actually had some breaking news on Wednesday. This is going to be on Friday's episode. But we had some breaking news. Brent Jones is leaving Troy. Took a job with Georgia Tech. We will talk about that. And earlier in the week, it may have actually been on Wednesday, Marshall introduced their new AD. So actually news to talk about going on in the Sunbelt. But let's start it off. He is the commissioner of the Sunbelt Conference. He is Keith Gill, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. Back again, day two of Sunbelt Media Days. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, with the commissioner of the Sunbelt. He is Keith Gill. Conversation long time coming, Commish. How you been?
Oh, I'm doing great. So good to see you. It's great to be here at Media Day, talking about Sunbelt football, getting ready for the season. Really excited for a great season of Sunbelt football.
All right, so we got to back it up a little bit because we got this La Tech, Texas State process going on. Explain to us the process, because it seemed to me the information I was getting was one thing, and it may have turned out to be another thing. So explain to me the process, because it felt like Texas State was playing footsie with the Pac-12, and it seemed like La Tech couldn't play, the Sunbelt couldn't be playing footsie with La Tech, and yet maybe they were. Can you explain to us the process as much as you can? Because it didn't feel like what I found out, like maybe the Sunbelt wasn't talking to La Tech officially until Texas State left.
Yeah, I think I do think one of the things that is important is that, you're not doing anything kind of really official or until you actually have a vacancy, because one of the problems that you have is if it doesn't work out for the school, and you also aren't trying to send bad messages to your members and those kind of things. So I do think trying to wait until there actually is a vacancy, that's when, kind of things happen in earnest. But, you cast a wide net, and you're looking at a lot of different schools and trying to evaluate information to figure out what's the best. And you're working kind of through your ADs and your presidents. So I think we had a really good process. Texas State, great member, did a great job of kind of keeping us informed of their process. And so kind of a little bit under the gun in terms of, whether or not, what happens in 2026 and how that's going to impact us. But they, informed us. And then once we kind of knew that they were definitely leaving, then that's when you kind of get activated and get started.
All right, so let's talk about 2026. I kind of feel like that's going to happen, right? Because my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a 14-month. La Tech's got to give Conference USA a 14-month leeway. And even if this was done immediately, like, June 30th and July 1st, that wouldn't have been enough time. So it kind of had to be May 1st. And so that wasn't going to happen. But I still feel like for all parties involved, somewhere along the way, Conference USA, the Sunbelt, and it's not really even the Sunbelt, La Tech and Conference USA is going to work it out for 2026. And that's, if it is going to happen, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Like, we're not going to have this conversation a year from now. This conversation is going to be done in the next couple of months.
Yeah, it really is, to your point, something that La Tech and the Conference USA have got to work out. And I'm assuming they've already started that process, and we'll just kind of sit back and see. And certainly, 2026 creates some challenges for us because we'd be odd, but also Conference USA would be odd as well. And so I just think that, there's some benefits from everyone, and hopefully everyone sees it that way and we can come to some agreements. Otherwise, we're going to have to try to work through some alternatives to try to figure out some of our scheduling challenges, particularly in football, but really across all our sports.
Home and home versus Southern Miss and Marshall. Just throwing it out there. We're talking to Sunbelt Commissioner. See, this job is easy. Your job is so easy.
I know, it really is. You know what? I just listened to Dave Schultz, and
no problem.
The conference would run so much better.
Well, I don't know about that. All right. I'll provide the adult beverages following all the meetings. Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill joining us, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so why La Tech?
Yeah, La Tech makes a lot of sense in the sense of they allow us to do what we do even better. Our geography, regional rivalries, really important. So create a lot of instant rivalries that'll be great for fans, easy to travel to. The average distance between Western Division schools when La Tech joins will be 250 miles. So turns it into a bus league with some really good rivalries. And then they're good in a lot of the other sports. They've been to a bowl game in football 8 of the last 11 years. Their tradition in football is strong. They got 3 NFL Hall of Famers. They've been to 14 bowl games in their history, which is more than most of our current members. And they're really good at baseball. They've been to 3 NCAA regionals in the last 5 years, and they've had 40 wins in the 3 of the last 4 years. They're good at softball. They've been to 2 softball regionals since 2017. And we get better in basketball. So both men's and women's, and they've got great history in those sports. So they help us in our core sports get better. They help us with our geography. They bring some really good regional rivalries. They've been FBS for a really long time, so they have a great kind of strong fan base, passionate fan base. Really good facilities. They've invested about $100 million in facilities since 2013. And so for those reasons, it just ended up making a lot of sense.
Now, I wasn't hiding it. I was pro La Tech joining it for the reasons that you gave. The Cajuns just don't have a rival. It's not ULM. I don't know why that's the case. As somebody who wasn't from there, realizing that it wasn't. All right. It was Southern Miss now. All right. That's a nice addition. But it is Louisiana Tech. They do not like each other. All right. It's new administrations, but there was an issue with the administration beforehand, and the fans do not like each other. So that's going to make fun and bring fans to the stadium because that's what you want. Right. There's not a team on the Cajun schedule year in, year out that the fans do go to the games. And now this is going to bring it. So I was pro Louisiana Tech into the conference. The people watching my videos, not so much. How can you convince the other fan bases for the reasons that you gave that this was good for the other teams in the conference?
Yeah, so one of the reasons it's good for the other teams in the conference is for a couple of reasons. Like all the things that I just said previously, they get those benefits. So for, I say this all due respect to Texas State, that's a long trip for everyone in the West. Well, now it's shorter. For all the teams in the East, we generally play in pairs. So now when they're paired up, whether it's, paired ULM and La Tech or La Tech and Arkansas State or La Tech and Louisiana or those kind of things, those pairs are going to be a lot easier. It's a lot easier travel, a lot easier for them to manage as it relates to Texas State. I think at the end of the day, you can't be at 13. 13 is just hard from a scheduling standpoint. So if the assumption is you got to get to even, and you got to get to 14, then that really helps everyone because I don't think anybody wants to play 12 in a row. I don't think anybody in the East wants to give up a game against JMU for another game against someone in the West or 2 more games against someone in the West. So like I said, it really allows us to be better at what we already do, which is playing regional rivalries. We try to play 75% of our games within the division. And so that allows JMU and App and Marshall to all play each other. And the same way it allows Louisiana, Southern Miss, and soon to be La Tech to all play each other more than they would play teams from the other division. So I think it really benefits everyone. I think it's a really good outcome for us. And I really think fans should really think about at our level, realignment generally means a conference gets diminished. It generally means they're lesser and they can't add teams that are really going to add value and keep their momentum going. And we've been able to do that 2 times. So in 21 realignment, we got better. We added 4 teams. We lost 2 teams that didn't play football. We added 4 teams that did, and we got better as a conference. Our brand is better. We added better brands. The same thing happened this time. We lost a great member who we did not want to lose and we would love to have, but we're adding someone that actually allows us to get better at what we do and brings a really good brand and strong tradition. So I think everyone should be really pleased with what that says about the health of the Sun Belt and where our conference is.
Was anybody else considered?
Yeah, we cast the wide net. So absolutely considered. Yeah, lots of schools and lots of options, and this one ended up being the best.
Did anybody else contact you?
Yes, I mean, but we get contacted regularly. So
okay.
I would say that we're talking kind of realignment really all the time. Just, even before we have openings and those kinds of things. So that's an ongoing conversation we have within our conference, but also people reaching out from outside the conference as well.
All right, let's take a time out. We'll come back and have more of our conversation with the Sun Belt Commissioner Keith Gill. We talk about divisions and bowl tie-ins, plus how to get more bids to the NCAA tournament. He is the chairman of this year's basketball tournament, next year's basketball tournament, as the case may be. We will do that after I tell you about Drip Drop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses perfectly balanced of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. And remember, I'm giving these guided tours going into the warehouse. These are hot, and we're drinking lots of water, and the Drip Drop is keeping me hydrated throughout the day. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's continue our conversation with the commissioner of the Sunbelt. We talk about keeping the divisions and bowl tie-ins, NCAA tournament bids. We go over it all with the commissioner of the Sunbelt. He is Keith Gill, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. Well, talking to Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Only conference, I believe, that still has divisions. I like the divisions. It helps me keep track of the teams, helps me keep track of the coaches, and helps me keep track of the quarterbacks. Everyone wants to keep the divisions.
You know what? Yes, the divisions really help us, because if we get rid of the divisions, then we're going to play less of the traditional divisional teams, because then you just open it up and you just schedule, and all of a sudden you're playing a few more West teams if you're in the East. So it really allows us to ensure that, hey, the East plays all 6 other teams in football, and the West plays all 6 other teams in football. And I think that's helpful. I think that's really a good part of what we do. And so if we ever get to a point where we think the divisions are creating a problem for us, impacting our ability to get the CFP, certainly we'll evaluate that and make some changes. But right now, we're benefiting from the divisions. They really help us. They make our league what it is. I think they build our brand, and they give us something unique. I mean, if you think about geography, regional rivalries, what league has that? We're very unique. We're in unicorn, and I actually think it's one of our superpowers.
And how do we improve the bowl tie-ins?
Yeah, so we're in the last year of the bowl cycle. We only have 5. We want to get to 8. And so we'll start working on that. Now, right now, it seems like the bowl process is kind of frozen until the CFP finishes up in terms of making a determination of what 26 is going to look like in terms of the format for the CFP. So we've had preliminary conversations, feel really good about them. But if you look at our bowl mix over the last couple of years, because we're in that pool with ESPN, our tie-ins have been good. Going to New Mexico last year was a really good opportunity. We've been in first responders 2 of the last 2 years. We were on Forces Bowl 2 years ago. We were in Birmingham 2 years ago. I think our bowl mix has been really good over the last couple of years, and I think we've got a good opportunity to expand on that as we add more partners for the next cycle.
What's the priority for the bowl? Is it, I guess that's an open-ended question, but is it, TV slot? What's the priority? Because sometimes, it's during the day, and it's not a great TV slot. Sometimes it's at night. It's the only game going on. Sometimes, what's the priority, I guess?
Yeah, so I think the priority for us is opponent matters, so
that too, right?
We are
you kind of want to play a better opponent. Sometimes that doesn't work out because you get your butt kicked. But so what? Because the Cajuns ended up doing that, playing a better team, and it didn't work out. But you got a really good opponent.
Yeah, so we'll always prioritize an autonomy opponent if we can get one. So because that's important to us. And then we'll look at which conferences we want to play. So the opponent really matters. I think the network really matters. The hard thing about the TV window is by the time you have your arrangements, you don't always know what the window is because those change from year to year. And so that's really difficult. But, we want to be on ABC as much as we can. And so I can remember a few years back where the Cajuns were on ABC against UTSA, and that was a great game. Rated really well and did really good for us in that regard. So I think so opponent, network, those are two things that are really keys to us as we're trying to build our kind of bowl lineup each year.
Talking to Keith Gill, Sunbelt Commissioner, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. How does the conference improve their standing in basketball and maybe turn into a 2-bid league?
Yeah, I think we got some work to do there in terms of being more consistent. I think one of the things we've got to do is update our basketball strategic plan. When that was developed, NIL wasn't kind of what it is now. And so, the way you acquire talent is just different. And so we just got to make sure that we're investing in the right ways in that space. I think we got to continue to look at our schedules. We got to get more home games. I'm a fan of the MAC Challenge. I think that helps us. It gives us a home game, gives us quality home game, which is really important. But we got to look at our schedule, get more home games, get the schedule, get our data points in the right spot. So I think we've got some work to do to be more consistent. We got some things to build on. Obviously, we got a 12 seed 2 years ago from JMU. It allowed them to win a game, which is really important on the women's side. JMU was a 12 seed 2 years ago on the women's side. If they hadn't been upset in our championship game, would have probably been a 12 or an 11 seed this year. So we're making some progress. We just need a little more depth, and so we'll go to work and look at our strategic plan and see how we can improve that.
Now you're the chairman of the committee, so do I have this right? Reese Davis is going to ask you why there's 3 teams in the NCAA tournament from the Sun Belt. Is that what's going to happen? You're going to have to explain that to Reese Davis.
I am the chair of the committee, which I'm really excited about, and I will certainly get some difficult questions on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't matter. There used to be 48 teams, so the 49th team complains, right? There's 64 teams, the 65th team complains. Now there's like 68 teams, so now the 69th team complains. It doesn't matter how many teams, right? There used to be 2 teams playing for the college football championship, so the 3rd team complained.
Yeah.
Right now there's 12 teams complaining, and so the 13th team complained. And when they go to 14 teams or 16 teams, the 17th team complains. So it's the same questions, no matter how many teams.
100%. I'll just get the bad email, get the tough questions, and move on. But I'm excited about it. It'll be a great opportunity.
As long as it's a consistent answer. That's the only thing. You can't have this team was in there because of the strength of schedule, but this team, won more games or something like that. You got to have the same answer for the same question is all I'm saying.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
This team won more games, but this team had a harder schedule. Keep it consistent.
All right, there we go. Insights from Dave Schultz. I like it.
There you go. That sounds like a new podcast. That's going to last like 3 episodes. All right. All right. Let's wrap it up here with the Sun Belt Commissioner Keith Gill. How does the Sun Belt build on what Coastal Carolina did playing for the college baseball championship?
Yeah, it's great. This year we had 2 regional hosts for the first time, so it's huge. Southern Miss, Coastal Carolina, really love that. Coastal getting all the way to the College World Series was outstanding. Yeah. It was really amazing.
I mean, second to last game of the season.
I know. Yeah. So we just got to keep that going. We've got to get a little more depth. The 2 previous years we had 4 teams in the NCAA tournament. This year we only had 2. So we've got to get that back to be in that 4 to 6 range.
Troy should have made it.
Understood. Yeah. But I mean, I'm just talking about outcomes, right? We got to get that to 4 to 6 schools on a, just on a regular basis. And then we have a lot of teams knocking at the door. Hosting the regional though is so important, and having those good regular seasons. It's great. We have such depth in our league. You can really build up your strength of schedule. It's also great that we play in a footprint with really good baseball teams. So our midweek kind of non-conference games are really strong and give us some good opportunities.
I mean, Coastal beating Clemson twice.
Yes, exactly. Sweeping Clemson. And so I think we've got some really good ingredients. And so it'll create some really good opportunities for us.
And I guess the Cajuns are hosting Coastal and LSU. And so the way that works out is, I mean, it's a chance for Clemson to lose, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt Clemson that they're playing Coastal Carolina.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No. It's
same thing
great.
for LSU. It doesn't hurt them that they're playing the Cajuns RPI wise.
No, those will be good games when it comes down to the selection. So it's those are really good opportunity games, and it's great having a league like that because you can get those games scheduled, and teams want to play teams in the Sun Belt, and it's helpful. So
all right. So what's the overall plans for 2025 for the Sun Belt?
2025, we've got some good football teams, so we really need to get better. Not get better, but get to the CFP. That's really, this is year 2 of the CFP. We've got to absolutely be relevant in that conversation when we get to our championship weekend, and we also got to have a team break through. And so that's to me, that's our biggest focus point. That's what we've got to do, and that's how we can elevate our league.
I mean, you have a couple of games, and you have, Arkansas State's playing Arkansas.
Right.
JMU is coming to me playing Louisville. I mean, just to let you know, Commish, it's Bourbon Fest that weekend. If you want to come to Louisville that weekend, Cajuns are going to Mizzou. And in the Sun Belt cases, you need to go on the road and win those games to elevate you, because all of a sudden, instantaneously, you get into the top 25, and the way the polls work, you win that one game, and everyone else is playing everybody else, and you keep on winning, and all of a sudden, you're 23, and you blink, and you're 10 because everybody else is playing everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And Southern Miss is hosting Mississippi State.
Southern Miss is going to beat Mississippi State.
That's a big game to actually get that game at home. So we've got some really big opportunities. We've beat autonomy schools 11 times in the last 3 years, and hopefully this year won't be different. We've got some really good chances to do that.
All right, he is the Sun Belt Commissioner, Keith Gill. Anytime you want to give me news before it gets out there, feel free.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if I'm beating you to the punch sometimes, but
you probably are.
Just letting you know I have an outlet. Just saying. All right.
I appreciate it.
I got a couple of people following. I got more people following me now than I did when I started.
Okay.
Just saying.
Good.
A couple of people. Good. He is the commissioner of the Sun Belt. He is Keith Gill, and he is locked on Sun Belt. Always appreciate the time, Keith. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
I got my flight leaving.
All right. Perfecto.
All right, let's take a time out. Do want to have a special thanks to Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill for sitting down with us at Sunbelt Media Days in New Orleans. We did have some news this week, so let's talk about that when we come back. Marshall introduced their new AD, and then all of a sudden on Wednesday, Troy lost their AD. We'll do that when we come back after I tell you about Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Game Time's Zone Deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy the tickets? The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. With Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Worried about what happens if your plans change? The Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so news this week in the Sunbelt, and something that I had actually forgotten. Marshall sort of fired their previous AD. And I guess technically, is it fired when they don't renew the contract? My father always said, if you're not renewing the contract, you're fired. And so Christian Spears was let go. So I don't know if that is a result of the whole Charles Huff situation or not. But that thing went one way, and now Christian Spears is gone as well. But that is old-ish news. That was known in April. I happen to forget about it. But the news came out during the week that they did hire a new AD from Austin Peay, actually. And they did announce it as well. Gerald J. Harrison is the next AD. And apparently he did a very good job at Austin Peay. And so it's in a pretty good spot. While they are the defending football champions, basketball had a good run a couple of years ago. Baseball's headed in the right direction. Obviously, got a new stadium a couple of years ago. And so we'll see where we are with Marshall overall, right? We kind of think in Arkansas State seems to be heading in the right direction. The Cajuns opening a new football program, new football stadium. And we'll see where other programs are headed. But Marshall seems to be headed in the right direction. We'll see how Tony Gibson does. Again, new basketball coach. They seem to get it going towards the end of the season. It's been a minute. New baseball coach. That baseball season was as roller coaster as it gets. And when they get to the semifinals of the Sun Belt Conference tournament, that's pretty good. All right. Especially the way that season started. All right. So again, new baseball stadium, long time coming. And it started would have been 24, I think. Right. And so pretty cool. So they seem to be going in the right direction. That was not, it was news that he was hired, that Harrison was hired. Not news that they were looking. All right. Needed to be reminded that was not the news. The big news, and maybe again, sometimes I got to be hit over the head. I'm the first person to be reminded of that. But I was sitting at lunch with John Hartwell from ULM, Jeremy McNeil from Southern Miss, Doc from South Alabama. And wouldn't you know about it, the Troy AD Brent Jones wasn't there. He's always there. All right. It just didn't hit me that he wasn't. Kind of just laser focused. Get in, get out. Get my interviews and get out. And I had noticed that he wasn't there. I did notice that I missed Brian Maggart. That one also because they were posting a bunch of pictures that they were in New Orleans. I guess he was there momentarily. I missed him. But Brent Jones, the Troy AD, was not there. And so it didn't occur to me until, boom, Pete Thamel is reporting that Brent Jones is taking a job, interestingly enough, as executive director, athletic director at, let's see what Pete Thamel reported, because it was kind of an odd title. Let me see here. It was an odd. Georgia Tech is hiring Troy AD Brent Jones as the school's new executive deputy athletic director. All right. Executive deputy athletic director. All right. So interesting. All right. Brent Jones did a great job with Troy. They have as good as facilities as there is, baseball stadium, football stadium, basketball arena, and they're all right there. I mean, it's really good facilities. They are all, the track is right there. They're all, it's all in one spot. It's pretty good. So I guess he felt his job was done there and moving on up, as they say. And I presume as the executive deputy, I need to get what I already forgot about it. No, that's what I read. Executive deputy athletic director. Maybe I need to go look what Georgia Tech announced. His job is going to be the money, probably raising money for Georgia Tech, or maybe more about organizing all the rev share. That there's a bunch of new jobs. I just remember, 30 odd years ago, maybe more, that teachers were telling you, especially with all the technology that was coming, there's going to be jobs that are not invented yet. I mean, colleges now have general managers. These jobs were not invented as of 3 years ago. Yeah. And so now you need people. I mean, we didn't have colleges paying players as of last year. They're going to start playing players as of this year. So we'll see. And now, as of now, they're going to do a search. Craig Stevenson, our buddy from AL.com, Kyle George, Deputy Director of Athletics for External Relations, will serve as Troy's interim AD while the school conducts a national search to replace Jones. So those things usually take a little bit, although, I mean, Marshall's only took, if that was Christian Spears wasn't being renewed his contract at the end of April, May, June, July. That took 3 months. Now, that's a lot of downtime, right, in that time frame. So we'll see. Now, all of a sudden, everything's gearing up. I don't know if that matters. You still have August, as I don't know if that's considered downtime. Football is gearing up. So I'm not sure if that's considered downtime for the administration. But, all of a sudden, school is getting going. So we'll see, if they have somebody. You would think they would have somebody in by the new year. I would look for that to happen. But I think Troy's a pretty good job. I would think that Troy is a pretty good job. I mean, do you see somebody from within the Sun Belt taking it and moving on up? Do they promote from within? Do they just give it to Kyle George? Is that somebody? Do you go from lesser conference like Marshall did and promote from athletic department, from an AD? Are you looking for AD experience, or do you promote from like an associate AD? Does somebody come from a bigger conference like Brian Mayer did from the Big 12? Or was it the SEC at the time? Missouri was SEC at the time. So something like that. You could go a multitude of ways. But I would think that Troy's a pretty good job. All right. And it's in the Sun Belt. There's some challenges. Troy is small. I did hear there's no movie theaters in Troy. That's kind of strange. Been to Troy a few times. Not that I'm going to a movie in Troy. There's no movie theater in Troy. You got to go 45 minutes or so to go see a movie. Not that we need to do that these days. You get a big TV screen and you're seeing a movie. But I did not know that. The movie theater went out of business during COVID. Although it does sound like a business opportunity for somebody to open up a movie theater. Although now the distillery is about to open. Hashtag always bright side. They are posting jobs there. The guys who make Clyde Mays is about to open. So that's a positive. So we do have the news. New AD at Marshall, and Troy is looking for a new athletic director. So there's that. The Marshall news was not big news. Well, it is big news who they hired, but it was not news that they were going to fill the position. The Troy news came out of nowhere. But we do wish Brent Jones all the best. He did a good job at Troy. He's going to do a great job at Georgia Tech. We'll see how that goes and what direction Troy goes into. All right. Thanks for all the support this week. All right. This may have been ended up being a little bit of a lengthy episode. We almost had 8,500 audio downloads. It may not seem like a lot for the rest of Locked On. It is a record for us. 60,000 views. Again, we had almost as many views in June and July as we had all of last year. So I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. We will do the East. All right. Everybody complaining about should be Locked On Sunbelt West. We'll do the East next week. All right. So get ready for that. We'll enjoy the weekend, and we will do all of the East next week. So again, thanks for tuning in. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you again on Monday.